This is Yaoman with Xinhua News Agency. Now I'm at Bamba Township, Maizhokunggar County, Lhasa, the capital of China's Tibet Autonomous Region. Today is the first day of Tibetan New Year, and you can see I have myself dressed in a Tibetan style. And today I'd like to introduce the Tibetan New Year for you. As you know, the Tibetan New Year is a traditional festival for Tibetan people, but I have something else to share with you. Actually, due to the different culture costumes, people celebrate New Year at the different time in different cities in Tibet. For example, in Shikaza, it is celebrated in December of Tibetan calendar, and today marks the Tibetan New Year of Lhasa, the regional capital. And now let's go to we find a villager to let him to show us how they celebrate the Tibetan New Year and what are needed to prepare. Let's go, follow our lens. 有人吗？This is Tenzin Chile, and today we'd like to invite him to introduce the Tibetan New Year for us. 丹增哥，我刚才走过来的时候看到，就是我们这个家门上有换了这个新的布，是吧？对对。这个是叫什么呀？香布。叫香布，它是是个什么样的作用呢？我们那个每年会换一次。每年换一次。这个是那个到外面盖的那个摆的意思是那个全家人身体健康，阴里面永远这。也是一种换新气象的一种方式。我看上面还有一些白色的东西，就是主要是以白色为主哈。 对对对，白色的。主要是以白色为主。Okay. Just now I walked towards to Denzin's house and I noticed the beautiful clothes, and he told me that it's the colored clothes hanging on the door. He changed it yesterday, and it's a special decoration of Tibetan architecture hanging on the upper parts of doors and windows, and it's usually sewing with colorful zinc. The main color, as you can see, is white. And with some red, blue, and yellow edges. According to the Tibetan costume, it changed every year, praying for good luck, and which is also marks the arrival of Tibetan New Year. Now let's go and check it out. Wow, his living room is so beautiful. 哦，这个是罗萨扎西德勒，这个是切马，这个要怎么做？青稞甩三下是吗？This is called chema, and this is a traditional costume of Tibetan in Tibetan New Year. And I have to grab some of the barley and throw it into the sky for 3 times, and then grab some of the zamba. And also 1, 2, and last time I just tasted it. Thank you, Lhasa. Okay. This is a traditional costume for Tibetan New Year. When on the first day of Tibetan New Year, when costume come to their house, they have to do this activity. Now we just have a seat, and we want to invite the Tenzin to introduce the Tibetan New Year for us. Tenzin 就是我们像这个藏历新年啊，从哪一天开始，或者中间都有一些什么样的民俗活动，或者是传统活动呢？我们是29号开始活动。藏历29号开始，29号那个亲戚都回来了吧？家里亲戚都回来了。29号晚上我们一起吃骨头。晚上吃骨头，就是在外念书的、工作的都全部回家来团圆。有些外面有工作吧，都回来。He's just said that the Tibetan New Year just begins at the night before the Tibetan New Year Eve, and at that night, people, whether work or study outside, will come back home and reunion with the family and have gutu together. And I wonder, gutu, what is gutu? Is my curious. Let's ask about him. 老师，骨突是什么东西？刚才您说的。骨突是面粉做的。面粉做的，就是面粉揉出来容易疙瘩吗？那为什么大家要坐在一起吃骨突？有什么特别之处吗？有特别的那个，但什么嘛，大家都回来吧，
过年。
家里回来过年。
29个都亲戚都回来，然后做个里面活动。
然后骨头里边，骨头，它就是一种吃的是吧？
吃的。然后这里面那个有绵羊。
有绵，你的意思是把会在那个面粉里边包绵羊，绵羊毛，
辣椒，然后盐巴，
盐，
然后
纸，
白糖，
就放各种各样不同东西在里边。那放进去有一个什么样的寓意呢？有什么意思呢？
绵羊是这个人那个性格特别温柔的。
比如说我吃到了绵羊毛，那就说明我是一个温柔的人。
对。
那如果我要吃到辣椒呢？
辣椒你嘴巴口子太大。
就是我比较口子轻快，说话不饶人是吧？然后口齿伶俐的感觉。
口子厉害的那个。
这个感觉很有趣 ，That's interesting。那这个像骨突它是长个什么样子啊？是什么形状的？我们可以看一下吗？有。有视频是吗？
前天晚上我们家里全家人那个吃的
And
那个。
Tenzin has said, actually, I'm curious about the traditional food he mentioned before, the kutu. And he said that it's special because there are 9 different fillings in kutu, such as salt, pepper, wool, and so on. Different fillings have different meaning. When you have the wool one, it means you are a gentle person. And when you have the pepper one, it means you are eloquent or sharp-tongued. Families joke with each other, and it's very harmonious. 看起来好热闹啊！看起来很热闹。That's really interesting. I have learned that there's another traditional food for Tibetan New Year. It's called kasai, which is Tenzin gave it to me when I walk into the living room. And let's invite him to introduce it for us. 老师，你可以帮我介绍一下那个卡塞吗？这个切马，刚才我们进来的时候，您有给我们展示的那个东西，切马和卡塞，对，可以看一下。这个就是叫切马。
这个是切马。
这个叫切马是吧？它是都放了一些什么东西？
这是那个酥油，
这是酥油
一起做的。
糌粑其实本来就是青稞做的，对吧？
对。
糌粑是青稞做的，酥油和糌粑这边是。
这是青稞的。
青稞然后会放一些，上面再放一些装饰的。对。这是放什么？
这个是这个那个4个动物的。4个动物，4个动物是那个是团结的意思。
团结的意思。那这个是
吉祥八宝的。
吉祥八宝，这个是小麦穗是吧？
这个是
青稞穗。
青稞穗
那我猜想的话，这个放的都是青稞和糌粑，是不是？每家每户放这个东西，也是对未来新年的一种期望，对，希望这个风调雨顺、五谷丰登，有一个这样的寓意啊。
对，每个家人都这个要。客人都来的话，这个起码这个3下车。
客人来的话也要用这个来做，其实也是一种祝福，对吧？
对，祝福。罗萨这里就这样说。
Dante has told us this is called a chema, and look at this 2-tier rectangular wooden box. In one side, it's full of zamba. It's a kind of a regular food made of highland barley. And there are sugar and yak butter, you can see yak butter mixed in it. And in the other side, there is full of roasted barley and sometimes not roasted. After putting this, you should add a few years of colorful barley like this. This is green and this is pink, some colorful barleys. And I guess that based on the food put inside, it's not hard to understand what it's used for. And Tenzin has confirmed it. Obviously, people doing this for blessing the propitious winds and the rains and hope there will be a golden harvest in the next year. It's a very good and good taste traditional food. 这个是切马哈，我刚刚看到这边还有这个搭的是什么呢？
这是搭的那个是叠嘎的，
叫叠嘎。哦 ，This is called 叠嘎 in Tibetan。它是什么做的呀？
它是这个名字是卡塞的。
卡塞就是这个是卡塞
卡塞就这样弄完就那个叠嘎
然后它用卡塞一层一层堆起来，
对，一层
堆起来
叠嘎。
然后
这是那个做的是那个面粉，然后牛奶，然后那个白糖，
然后混在一起油炸，
炸，
然后再摆成这个形状。哦，and you can see this one is called 卡塞。This is kasai, and it's a traditional food for festival occasion. It is a kind of pasta, fried pasta, and the people usually pile it up layer by layer and praying for happiness and well-being in the next year. And I have noticed this. It's really beautiful, right? Let's ask him what is it. 但是这个是
名字是退的，
退
牛奶酥油一起做的，
牛奶和酥油一起做退
我们在这个牧区吧，牧区的话，牧只能都这个吃。
长得很像一个蛋糕。
对，蛋糕是反正是差不多一样的。
差不多一样的啊。This is called tui in Tibetan and is made of yak milk and yak butter and some sugar. And you can see it's just look like a cake, a birthday cake, right? It's really beautiful. 然后我们可以来做一下吧。所以这些东西全都是藏历30昨天说要准备的。昨天弄的哦。All these things, including the chema, kasai, are all prepared yesterday and just for a good blessing for the new year. 然后现在我们桌上摆的这些是今天初一是吧？
今天
初一啊。刚才您说到藏历29是要吃骨突，30是准备东西。那藏历今天是新年初一，今天做什么呢？
今天亲戚都来在这里吃个饭，然后那个聊聊天，
家人一起聊天，
对，不能出门。
不能出门所以就是相当于是个家庭时光。
对。
哦，明白。Danzi has told me that yesterday in the Tibetan New Year Eve, people will get everything ready for the Tibetan New Year. And for today, the first day of Tibetan New Year, people will not go out and just stay at home, gathering with their families, and it's really a family time. And I know that's why we see few people outside the village, because people are all at home and gathering with their families. 然后我们这个藏历初一，今天初一吧？今天初一完了，那明天呢？明天初二。
初二那个亲戚家人去那个吃饭，然后那个
走亲访友了Okay. After today, in tomorrow, people will begin to visit friends and relatives till the end of the Tibetan New Year. Oh, I noticed one interesting thing. Look at this. You can see it produced in Japan, and it's the Coca-Cola. 这个可乐是我发现是外国进口来的哈。这是您从哪儿买的呀？
拉萨买的。
从拉萨买过来的，是买年货的时候买过来的吗？
对。
我看现在也是摆了很多这个不同的饮料，还有进口的酒水什么的哈。
对。
现在跟以前过藏历新年还是有一些区别。
以前的现在不一样吧？我们小的时候那个以前那些东西没见过。现在那个我们喝什么呀，吃什么呀，都可以随便买吧。现在我们交通也很方便。明白。以前没去这样的路嘛。
In the past, Tenzin recalled that they could only have some traditional food and drink Highland barley wine. But now, with the well development, the living conditions are better, and there are more options for food. And 我看到还有啤酒哈，现在是年轻人爱喝吗？年轻人喝啤酒，不喝青稞酒了。
对，不青稞酒。
Okay, and the young people prefer for the beer. And they seldom drink for Highland barley wine. 这些都是新年的关于吃上面的一些变化哈。对，那生活上有没有一些什么样的变化呢？就是跟以前相比起来。
以前比的话，现在变化特别力大。以前没有就这样吃的喝的那些，我们也没见过那些的。以前我们那个水也那个河边里面拿。
水去河边里面打。
现在那个水都在那个园子里面，
就是院子里面的。我是听说好像有一个习俗是今天早上吧， 藏历新年今天早上要去河边打水，
对，
打3次。
对。
现在还用去吗？
不能去。
就在家里面打是吧？
水已经通了吧？
哦，
以前那个河边里面去，
要跑到河边去
1公里左右跑了。
跑1公里，早上凌晨3、4点。
对。
Okay, well, I have heard a very interesting thing. Today is the first day of Tibetan New Year, and there's a traditional costume that everyone will get up really early at around 2 or 3 o'clock in the a.m. and to walk a long trek to the riverbank and get the fresh water, come back home. But now with the development and the water supply is accessed in their home, so they don't have to walk so long. They just get up at 3 or 4 o'clock. 早上3、4点，对，3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and just get the water in the at home, and it's really convenient. 就是在家里边接水就非常的方便，是吧？
对，可以方便。
就是习俗也保留了，然后生活也方便，是吧？
都方便的，现在。
He means that the traditional costume is inherited and preserved, and at the same time, we don't have to walk so long, and it's really convenient. 我们就是现在我刚在楼下的时候也看到，有几辆车哈，有是您的吗？
都是我们那个兄弟车的。
都是你们几兄弟的？你自己也有一辆？有一辆啊！现在开着像这些年货也是你就是开着去拉萨买的？对，开着去拉萨买啊。He said, when we get in his home, we can see there are few cars in front of his home, and one of the car belongs to Tenzin. Before the Tibetan New Year, he drove car to Lhasa to get all these things or foods for Tibetan New Year. 现在这个路修通了，也比较方便一些哈。对，
路去年通了。
去年通的，
去年
就是门口这个路，21年，对，21年8月份通，
对，
所以去拉萨买东西很方便。
以前我们拉萨跑的话3、4个小时
，3、4个小时，
对，很慢的
很慢。
现在我们拉萨跑的话1个半小时到拉萨
，1个半小时就到拉萨。
县里跑的话40分钟到拉萨。
那所以说去买这些零食，其实到拉萨回来，当天就可以往返，当天去就往返。
早上那个9点过去拉萨，然后晚上那个6、7点左右当天回来。
He said that in the past, if he wanted to drive to the downtown or to Lhasa, he has to drive. It took him for over 2 or 3 hours. But now with the road fixed, it just took him around 1.5 an hour, and he can get to Lhasa and get all these things and get back to home at the same day. 那就今天就非常谢谢这个丹增哥帮我们介绍一下这个藏历新年，然后我们这里拉萨新年快乐，拉萨新年，Thanks for Danzin's introduction about the Tibetan New Year for us. And according to the conversation, we have the feeling that all the living conditions have been approved, and they have a good life compared with the past. And we want to, in order to know more about the Tibetan rural area, we invited one of the government staff to introduce some of the details of this township for us. Let's go. Tochila, Lhasa Tashdele. Tochila means thank you in Tibet. And this one is Tenzin just give it to me. It's called Hada. It's a symbolize of blessing and happiness. I'm very glad to receive this. Hi, Tomo. This is Tomo. This is Tomo. Government staff of Menba Township. Yeah. Actually, after the conversation with Tenzin, I can feel the happiness of Tibetan New Year. Okay. And I know the living conditions are getting better and better in the past year. So I'd like to know more about what happened in the past years. Would you like to introduce for me?
Of course. The average elevation in our township is about 4,500 meters. And there are 944 households with 4,256 people in our township. And the animal And animal husbandry is the main source of income. Yeah. Because of the high altitude, the natural environment is not so
This
good.
is
in
really
our
cold
township.
here,
Yes, really
yeah.
cold. And the infrastructure is poor in the past.
And I see the road is all well done.
Yeah, that's finished by 2022.
Oh, the last year,
Yeah,
just last year. Wow.
Yeah, and it took 2 or 3 hours for the villagers to the county downtown.
Yeah.
Yeah, by now it's about 1 hour.
Yes, Tenzin has told me about this.
really?
It's really convenient.
Yes. And now the water, electricity, network connection, and the shuttle bus connection are all accessed of all villages in our
In
township.
our township,
Yeah.
every village.
Every village,
Wow.
6 villages. Yeah, and living condition has been greatly improved compared with before. Yeah, and in 2011.
2011.
Yeah, the rural per capita disposable income is about 8,000 yuan.
8,000 yuan, around over $1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While in 2022, it has reached over 16,000 yuan. Yeah,
16,000 yuan.
Yeah, it's about
Over
4,000.
4,000
dollars.
US dollars.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean 13,000?
Oh, yeah, 13,000.
13,000 yuan.
13,000.
Wow, it's over doubled.
Yeah, doubled.
It's really high. Thank you very much. Thank you. Lhasa
Lhasa 자시들래.
Okay. Thanks for Ishtom's introduction. We can see that the living condition of Tibetan rural area has changed greatly. And with the blessing of New Year, I believe that it will be better and better in the new year. And that's all for today's experience tour of Tibetan New Year. Thanks for your watching.